how Iron Man was filmed.
What's the world coming to when a guy's got to crash his own party?
Movies Inside Out presents Iron Man is a superhero movie that launched the first phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Billionaire inventor Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., won the hearts of audiences, and the first chapter of his cinematic story became one of the best films of 2008. We'll tell you all about its creation in our new video. The creation story. Iron Man first appeared in comic books in 1963. One of his creators, the legendary Stan Lee, was also involved in writing the initial script for the film adaptation during the 1990s. At the time, several studios expressed interest in the project, sequentially acquiring the rights to the character. Universal Studios initially planned to produce the film with Stuart Gordon as the director. Later, the rights passed to 20th Century Fox, where Nicolas Cage showed interest in the project. In 1998, Tom Cruise also planned to produce and star in the film. It was during this period that Stan Lee wrote one version of the script. However, Cruise insisted on having full creative control over the character, which Marvel was unwilling to grant. That version of the story featured MODOK as the villain and delved deeply into Iron Man's character. Despite a solid script, the project failed to move forward. Later, Jeffrey Kane, known for writing one of the James Bond films, revised the script. Producers even considered Quentin Tarantino for the director's chair. Ultimately, 20th Century Fox sold the rights to New Line Cinema. This initiated yet another round of development for the superhero film. Negotiations with high-profile directors resumed, and the script went through multiple rewrites. In one version, the Mandarin was the villain. In another, Tony Stark's father, Howard, became War Machine. However, all efforts proved futile, and in 2005, the film rights reverted to Marvel. In November of that year, Marvel started working on the project from scratch. Louis Leterrier was initially considered for the director's role, but in April 2006, the studio selected Jon Favreau instead. Leterrier, however, stayed busy and directed The Incredible Hulk. Favreau marked the occasion by going on a diet and losing 70 pounds, joking that it was a great opportunity to advertise your nutritionist. In the original comics, Tony Stark was involved in the Vietnam War. However, Favreau wanted to avoid creating a historical film and replaced Vietnam with Afghanistan. For Favreau, it was important to make the movie contemporary and grounded in reality. This made it challenging to find a suitable villain. For example, Favreau considered the Mandarin too fantastical and outdated. Other well-known villains such as Titanium Man and Crimson Dynamo were also discussed but ultimately discarded. The lesser-known Ironmonger, who the character Obadiah Stane transforms into, was chosen as the villain. Iron Man became the first film fully financed by Marvel, and the studio had high hopes for its success. Marvel used its comic book character library as collateral to secure a loan. If the film had failed, Marvel would have lost control over its intellectual property. Director Jon Favreau felt immense pressure, knowing the future of the studio was at stake. Casting. Although the role of Tony Stark was offered to Hugh Jackman, Favreau wanted to cast a relatively unknown actor. Timothy Olyphant auditioned, and actors like Clive Owen, Jim Caviezel, and Sam Rockwell were also considered. However, when Favreau met Robert Downey Jr., he realized he had found his Iron Man. In the director's view, Robert's personal history was precisely the kind of experience needed for the role. The highs and lows of Downey Jr.'s life had played out in the public eye, and he had overcome many obstacles to rebuild his career. This personal journey added depth to Tony Stark's character. Additionally, Robert brought a unique ability to make the character a likable jerk, while showing his growth throughout the story. Marvel Studios, however, hesitated to approve an actor with a history of substance abuse.
You are constitutionally incapable of being responsible.
It would be irresponsible not to drink. I'm just talking about a nightcap.
Fans were also divided. Some were concerned about his age and past, while others saw the choice as fitting, given that Tony Stark in the comics struggled with alcoholism. Thankfully, Jon Favreau and producer Kevin Feige convinced Marvel executives that Robert was perfect for the role, and fans agreed after the film's release.
For your consideration, the Jericho.
Interestingly, one of the fan favorites for the part was Matt Bomer. Robert Downey Jr. took his work seriously, even setting up an office near Jon Favreau's so they could collaborate on the character and the script. Although Tony Stark's prototype was inventor Howard Hughes, Robert drew inspiration from Elon Musk and even visited SpaceX with the director. To physically prepare for the role, he trained 5 days a week, combining strength training with martial arts. The first actor officially cast for the project, however, was Terrence Howard. He played Tony Stark's best friend, James Rhodey Rhodes, and received the highest paycheck at $3.5 million. For comparison, Robert Downey Jr. negotiated a salary of just $500,000. Howard signed a 3-film contract, but was replaced by Don Cheadle in the second movie. According to Howard, he turned down future Marvel projects because his offered salary was significantly reduced to offset Downey Jr.'s increased pay. There were also rumors that Favreau was unhappy with Howard's performance, requiring frequent reshoots. At the start of production, Terrence Howard prepared for the role by visiting Nellis Air Force Base, where he met with pilots and observed rescue helicopters and fighter jets. He was deeply passionate about portraying Rhodes, also known as War Machine, as he had admired the character since childhood, being one of the few black superheroes in comics.
Oh my God, you're crazy son of You owe me a plane, you know that, right?
For the role of Pepper Potts, the director initially wanted Rachel McAdams, but she turned down the offer and later admitted she regretted the decision. She eventually joined the Marvel Universe as Christine Palmer in Doctor Strange. Gwyneth Paltrow was then cast as Tony Stark's love interest. Reluctant to spend too much time away from her children, she agreed to the role on the condition that filming take place close to her home. Her commute to the set was just 15 minutes. To understand her character better, she asked Marvel to send her comic books, and she based her performance on heroines from the 1940s. According to Gwyneth, these women were sexy, witty, and innocent at the same time.
I actually don't think that you could tie your shoes without me.
I'd make it a week.
Favreau also wanted Tony and Pepper's relationship to resemble a 1940s romantic comedy, similar to His Girl Friday. In February 2007, Jeff Bridges was cast as Obadiah Stane. A comic book fan since childhood, he eagerly accepted the role, appreciating Favreau's modern and realistic take on the superhero story. To prepare, Bridges read several comics featuring Stane, shaved his head, grew a beard, and even studied the biblical book of Obadiah to understand the origin of the character's name. He was intrigued to discover that the book's central theme is retribution, which reflected Stane's role in the story.
You really think that just because you have an idea, it belongs to you?
Agent Phil Coulson's role was originally very small. He didn't even have a name, but actor Clark Gregg fit so well into the cast that the filmmakers kept expanding his scenes.
I'm Agent Phil Coulson with the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division.
As usual, Stan Lee made a cameo appearance, playing a man mistaken for Hugh Hefner, the creator of Playboy. Interestingly, Patrick O'Connell, Billie Eilish's father, also appeared briefly on screen. The post-credits scene introduced Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. No one else could have played the role, as Fury had been modeled after Jackson in the comics years earlier. One actor never appeared on screen but played a key role, Paul Bettany, who voiced Jarvis. Bettany later admitted that he had no idea what movie he was working on, simply agreeing as a favor to Jon Favreau, whom he knew personally. The voiceover job, which he described as the easiest of his career, took only 2 hours to record, earned him a generous paycheck, and allowed him to immediately go on vacation with his wife, Jennifer Connelly. Amusingly, Connolly would later voice an AI in Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017. Bettany's role in subsequent Marvel projects grew significantly, eventually requiring him to appear physically as Vision. Jon Favreau himself played Happy Hogan, Tony Stark's charming head of security and close friend. The filming process. Favreau chose to film Iron Man in California, even though Stark's mansion is located on the East Coast in the comics. The director felt that too many superhero movies were set in New York. The primary filming base was Playa Vista Studios, a symbolic choice since the site previously housed Howard Hughes Aviation Company. Filming began on March 12, 2007, with the initial weeks dedicated to scenes where Stark is held captive in Afghanistan. For these scenes, a cave set was constructed, stretching 460 to 600 feet. Production designer J. Michael Riva discovered that such caves can be cold, so he installed a climate control system. Other Afghan scenes were filmed in the sand dunes of Lone Pine, California. The crew endured 2 days of intense winds reaching 60 miles per hour. Filming at Edwards Air Force Base lasted just under a month, with the U.S. Department of Defense providing consultation for scenes and dialogue involving the military. Interestingly, the exterior of Stark's Malibu mansion was created in post-production, while the interiors were built on a soundstage. The production designer drew inspiration from the photographs of Julius Schulman, renowned for capturing mid-century Los Angeles homes of the 1950s and 1960s. The interior design was intentionally made to look messy rather than futuristic, reflecting Stark's identity as an inventor and mechanic. The creation of Iron Man's suits was another fascinating aspect of the production. 5 versions of the armor appeared in the film, all inspired by the comics. The first suit, Mark I, was a simple iron design weighing over 90 pounds. Costume designer Trevor Hensley used stickers and stencils to make it appear as though the suit had been cobbled together from items found in the cave. Mark II featured a sleek silver design, while Mark III adopted the iconic red and gold color scheme. Later, a red and silver suit was introduced. The Iron Man suit consisted of approximately 450 separate pieces made of rubber and metal, enhanced with CGI to perfect its appearance. When Robert Downey Jr. first put on the superhero suit, he looked like a kid in a candy store. His initial excitement quickly turned into pride and confidence. According to Downey, wearing the Iron Man suit felt like having the coolest Halloween costume ever. As for the antagonist suit, the production team built a 10-foot-tall animatronic ironmonger puppet, weighing over 660 pounds. It was suspended on rigs that simulated walking and required 5 operators to control. The atmosphere on set was lighthearted, with plenty of improvisation among the actors. The script wasn't fully finished at the start of filming, so much of the dialogue was created on the spot. Downey often requested reshoots to try new ideas, which challenged his co-stars. Gwyneth Paltrow admitted she struggled to stay in character while keeping up with Downey's rapid improvisation. Jeff Bridges also found it uncomfortable to work without a finished script, as he typically memorizes his lines thoroughly. However, this spontaneous approach made the production feel like a student film, with a multi-million-dollar budget. Robert Downey Jr. had a significant influence on both press conference scenes in the film. In the first scene, where 400 extras were initially meant to stand, Downey suggested they sit to make the setting more realistic and comfortable.
Hey, would it be all right if everyone sat down? Why don't you just sit down?
In the final press conference scene, Downey improvised the now famous line,
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Producer Kevin Feige approved its inclusion, marking the end of secret identities in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To avoid spoilers, extras were told the scene was a dream sequence. It's worth noting that Spider-Man remains one of the few Marvel superheroes with a secret identity. You can learn about the making of the 2002 Spider-Man movie starring Tobey Maguire in another video on our channel. The fun atmosphere on set also led to friendly competition between Downey Jr. and Terrence Howard. Downey broke Howard's record of 225 push-ups by completing 235. Determined to outdo his co-star, Howard increased his count to 245, but nearly injured his shoulder in the process. The filmmakers included numerous Easter eggs for fans. For example, the AI Jarvis was named after the Stark family's butler, Edwin Jarvis. In the film, the butler was replaced by an AI assistant to avoid confusion with Batman's butler, Alfred. When Pepper Potts downloads a set of secret files, the name Lebowski flashes on the screen, a nod to The Big Lebowski, in which Jeff Bridges played the title character. In another scene, Captain America's shield can be spotted. Later films revealed that Howard Stark, Tony's father, was responsible for creating the shield, and the one in Tony's home is an early prototype. Robert Downey Jr. also included a reference to his own past in the film. During the sit-down press conference after Stark's return from captivity, he eats a burger and declares he's had an epiphany. Downey himself reevaluated his life and quit harmful habits while eating a burger, later thanking Burger King in an interview for the turning point. The movie also features several musical Easter eggs. For instance, the theme from the 1966 The Invincible Iron Man cartoon plays multiple times, including as Rhodey's ringtone. Obadiah Stane's piano piece is not random. It's a composition by Antonio Salieri. The choice parallels the myth of Salieri's envy toward Mozart, mirroring Stane's jealousy of Stark. Speaking of music, Jon Favreau advised composer Ramin Djawadi to draw inspiration from heavy metal, resulting in a guitar-driven soundtrack. After filming wrapped 8 months of post-production focused on visual effects, Downey actively participated in this process, using motion capture technology to make Iron Man's movements realistic. Sometimes he wore a helmet, sleeves, and a chest plate over a motion capture suit. The animators studied parachutists training in vertical wind tunnels to replicate Iron Man's smooth takeoffs and landings. Movie mistakes and errors. A superhero movie doesn't aim for realism, but Iron Man still contains some clear factual mistakes. For instance, it is stated that Tony Stark graduated with distinction from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, but MIT doesn't award diplomas with honors. Interestingly, Rhodey also attended MIT, as he wears a class ring with the institute's emblem. However, according to tradition, the ring is worn upside down by undergraduates, suggesting that Rhodey and Stark may have met during their college years. In another scene, one of the criminals holding Stark captive threatens him with a glowing piece of metal that looks more like a small glass bulb with a light inside. Additionally, the idea of converting electrical energy directly into jet propulsion, as Stark does, is physically impossible since these forces are fundamentally different. It's also impossible to carry a miniature nuclear reactor in your chest generating 3 gigajoules per second. If this energy were funneled into a standard electromagnet, it would instantly melt or even vaporize. There are simpler continuity errors as well. For example, when Stark drives to a gala in his Audi, the car initially lacks a front license plate, but one suddenly appears in close-up shots. During his suit test, the flight stabilizer on his hand fires with a strong recoil. However, in later flight scenes, Stark's movements remain steady and unaffected. When Tony shows Yinsen a schematic for the Iron Man suit, his arc reactor is glowing under his shirt. But in the very next scene, they are shown installing the reactor into his chest. Similarly, during Stark's escape from the Afghan camp in the Mark I suit, he falls headfirst into the sand. Yet in the next shot, he is buried feet first, with his head above the sand. Pepper's hairstyle also undergoes noticeable changes throughout the movie. Her bangs alternate between short, long, and completely absent. Stark's mug is another example of inconsistency. In one scene, while he's working at the computer, the mug is upside down. In the next shot, it's upright, and Stark is even drinking from it. Deleted scenes. Rapper Ghostface Killah, a longtime fan of Iron Man comics, had a cameo in the film as a Dubai tycoon. However, the scene was cut. Director Jon Favreau apologized to the performer and included one of his songs in the soundtrack. There were also mishaps on set. During the filming of the tank scene, the crew accidentally broke a camera. In the climactic battle, Tony, in his Iron Man suit, was supposed to drive an Audi R8 and crash into Ironmonger, causing the car to flip over. Stark would then cut through the roof and jump out. However, the Audi proved too durable. It wouldn't flip over despite repeated attempts, and its sturdy frame made it difficult to slice the roof as intended. As a result, the scene was rewritten, and for the sequel, the filmmakers opted to use a convertible version of the car. Incidentally, the appearance of German-made vehicles in the film was part of a product placement deal. Interestingly, the German theatrical version of the film was shortened by 4 minutes to secure a 12 and up age rating. Ironically, the uncut version released on DVD also received the same 12 and up rating, rendering the cuts pointless. Meanwhile, in the mainland China version, a shot of Tony and Christine falling into bed was removed. The movie was also sent to some theaters under code names like Bell and Debonair to prevent leaks. In the US, the theatrical and DVD versions of the film also had differences. In theaters, viewers saw a photograph of Iron Man, taken by freelance photographer Ronnie Adams during filming in May 2007. When Adams discovered this, he filed a lawsuit against Paramount Pictures and Marvel Studios for using the image without permission. As a result, a different image of Iron Man was shown on the DVD version. The television version of the film included about 10 additional seconds in the first scene after Tony's car is attacked. Later, during a Marvel Phase 1 marathon, the film was shown with a new introduction by Agent Coulson, providing context about the movie and its characters. Worldwide recognition. Marvel's gamble on Iron Man, which premiered in the spring of 2008, paid off handsomely. The $140 million production budget was fully recouped, with the film grossing over $300 million in the US alone and surpassing $585 million worldwide. MTV promptly awarded the movie the title of Best Summer Movie so far, and the following year, it received nominations for Best Movie and Best Male Performance for Robert Downey Jr. The lead actor also won a Saturn Award, while Gwyneth Paltrow and Jeff Bridges received nominations. Additionally, Saturn Awards were presented to director Jon Favreau and the entire creative team for crafting the year's best science fiction film. The Screen Actors Guild recognized Iron Man with a nomination for its stunt ensemble, while the British Academy Film Awards, BAFTA, honored the movie for its visual effects. The film also received 2 Oscar nominations for Best Sound Editing and Best Visual Effects. In 2022, the Library of Congress selected Iron Man for preservation in the National Film Registry, recognizing it as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Marvel Studios not only retained the rights to its comic book characters, but also established and continues to expand an entire cinematic universe. What do you think lies at the core of Iron Man's success as a character?